Hey, how does it feel to lose a husband who Hey, how does it feel to lose a husband who earns $200,000 a year?
My sister asked with a smirk on her face, looking straight at me. It was supposed to be a celebration for the birth of my child, but she didn't care about that. She came empty-handed, brazenly confessing her affair with my husband.
Frankly, he's head over heels for me. It's obvious. You've always been clumsy and poor with zero charm as a woman. It's really sad he was married to someone like that.
Do you really think you can tear apart a family and just walk away without any consequences? I glared at her, and she just scoffed in amusement.
Ha ha ha, abandoned wives are truly miserable, aren't they? That's all you can say, sour grapes. Why don't you take a look in the mirror? Your pettiness is written all over your face.
You are really?
This is my big break in life. I can spend money however I like, and I'm willing to pay whatever alimony you want for the affair. After all, David earns $200,000 a year. Be $10,000 or even $20,000 is nothing to him.
My sister turned to my husband sitting with us, and he started to tremble. As soon as our eyes met, he knelt down.
I'm sorry, yeah.
His voice echoed unexpectedly, shocking my sister the most.
What?
In that moment, I reached for something I had hidden in my pocket. When I pinned it to my chest, my sister's face turned pale in an instant. My name is Eleanor. I'm a working mom, juggling household and career responsibilities. My husband David and I had been married for 5 years. Whether those years were long or short personally, I felt it had been a very long journey. We had a hard time conceiving. We wanted children from the start of our marriage. We were both 31 at the time. We're still at a good age for childbearing, but I had always dreamed of building a warm family with children. With a common wish. But since the beginning of our marriage, I had difficulty getting pregnant. We had gone to the hospital and both undergone tests, but there were no issues. Eventually, you'll get pregnant. The doctor's optimistic prediction contradicted our long struggle with fertility issues. 5 years had passed. When I finally became pregnant, our joy was indescribable. Finally, our baby had come to us. As my husband and I caressed my belly, we thanked God multiple times. I was working full-time then, but gradually reduced my workload, preparing for maternity leave. Although my job was busy, my priority was the baby in my belly. Luckily, with our combined income, we were financially stable, with sufficient savings.
David promised to work even harder, and indeed he was more dedicated to his work.
I was more worried about him overdoing it. As I entered my safe period, I took leave from work a month before my due date. I continued preparing for my childbirth, going back to my parents' house. Initially, David, who gets lonely easily, was reluctant about the idea of me being away from home, but when I explained it was all for the baby, he finally agreed.
I will miss you. Eleanor.
While his attitude seemed somewhat unreliable, it was also endearing to me. I resolved to fulfill my duties as a pregnant woman for his sake. Which is when I crossed the threshold of my parents' home after a long time.
Oh, Eleanor, it's been a while.
I was greeted by my sister. But Camila, her sudden appearance surprised me. I hadn't seen Camila for nearly a decade. Not just face to face. I didn't even know if she was alive. Our parents were in the same boat. 10 years ago, Camila left home almost like an elopement with a jobless man who used to work at a nightclub. She was quite smitten with him at the time, spending all her savings on him and even dipped into our parents' money, leading to her being disowned. 10 years passed with no annual check-ins. I had no way to tell her about my marriage or the pregnancy. So her sudden appearance at home surprised me and gave me an uneasy feeling. We were never close as sisters, and seeing her now more embittered after 10 years. I even felt a sense of revulsion.
What? You're pregnant? Eleanor, you've got quite the belly there. It's almost my due month. More importantly, what have you been up to all this time? You never once reached out. Well, I was disowned, right? Mom and Dad yelled at me, never show your face again. I couldn't come back even if I wanted to. That's because you took money from the house. I know. I said I'd pay it back and have repented, so Mom and Dad let me stay at home. Maybe they still have a soft spot for their youngest daughter.
And the guy you were with. I broke up with him ages ago. A deadbeat. He squandered my savings, got into debt, and even cheated on me with another woman. Camilla's face was ablaze with intensity. It wasn't the face of the sister I knew. She had always been ill-behaved, but seeing her now, she was shrouded in a negative aura. I was too intimidated to say anything more.
Well, it's all water under the bridge. Let's get along as sisters from now on. I'm going to be living here too. Nice to be with you. Eleanor.
Living at my parents' house was stressful, to say the least. The main reason was, of course, Camila's presence. Despite her promise to get along, she never kept it. Selfish as ever, she didn't care about the family's life, especially as a pregnant woman. Except to stray conception, I wished she would be more considerate, but she was loud even late at night and rarely got up in the morning. She was a freeloader at our parents' house, yet she showed no remorse. Her justification was always the same.
Attachment acorsities, unworking, unlike you.
Patience, well, I'm working, unlike you.
Camila, though irresponsible, was working a temporary job and adhered to a fixed schedule.
She had promised our parents to pay back the money. That seemed to have given her the mindset that she was contributing financially, and she often came at me for being on maternity leave.
Being pregnant is just being unemployed and lazy, right? Eating and sleeping all day, just wandering around.
What I'm doing now is essential for the baby. This is a crucial time.
Yeah. Pregnant women are so noble, huh? You always take the easy way out. Eleanor.
She huffed and glared at my pregnant belly. It seemed she was annoyed that our parents were more attentive to me. That's when our concerned mother made a suggestion to me. Maybe you should explain to Camila that you're on maternity leave, not unemployed. If she understands that you're also working, Maybe her attitude will change. It's okay. Nah, it doesn't matter what Camila thinks of me. Bringing it up will only complicate things. I just want to focus on giving birth.
I'm just worried she might do something rash.
I understood her point, but I didn't want to wear myself out over my sister's issues anymore. My baby was going to be born very soon. I always wanted to be a strong mother, no matter what. To do that, I couldn't let Camila's antics bother me. One day, a week before my due date, my husband David came to see how I was doing at my parents' house. He seemed out of place in someone else's home, acting nervous throughout his visit. However, he was sharply dressed in a suit. Flirtatious though I couldn't help but inwardly laugh at my husband's attempt to look impressive.
Nice to meet you. I'm Camila, Eleanor's sister.
She approached my husband and introduced herself in a sweet, purring voice. She never put on that much makeup for work. But now, Camila was fully made up and wearing a revealing dress. I intervened when I saw David visibly upset. Camila, you have work, don't you? And David won't be staying long.
What? I finally get to meet my brother-in-law, and you won't let us chat. He seems like such a nice guy. Sharp in that suit, seems kind-hearted. Nothing like the men I used to date.
Don't bring up weird stories here.
Hey, and David, you earn a lot, right? I heard you're a lawyer. I've always admired smart people.
David seemed flattered by Camila's sparkling eyes, clearly not indifferent to her. He was gazing at her exposed cleavage, grinning and looking smitten, which made me slap his bottom in disbelief. I let David go back home on his own. He had seen me, his purpose was fulfilled.
But teacherines, I'll be heading to work now.
Camila left the house following David, and I felt a tinge of unease. But I couldn't chase after them. I was more exhausted than anything. I later heard this story from my mother. It appears she had privately warned Camila, telling her that it's wrong to mock someone for being unemployed, especially your sister. She also inadvertently let slip some details about our household income and David's job. Although she was vague, I wondered how Camila had taken it. At least it seemed she now saw David as a capable man. Looking back, I should have been more cautious then, to avoid the painful events that followed. The week passed, and I went into labor. It was a grueling day and night. But in the end, what remained for me was unparalleled happiness, the birth of my long-awaited baby. Although small at 25 heart grams, the baby was more precious to me than any jewel. My only concern was David not making it in time for the birth. We had planned for him to be there for the birth of our child, our baby. That's why I wanted David to witness the birth of our child, to imprint that moment in his memory. But he arrived at the hospital an hour after the baby was born. "Why were you late?" I demanded.
He replied hesitantly, "Work got in the way."
When Camila showed up just 5 minutes after David, I couldn't help but feel a connection between their arrivals. I couldn't believe these two. After giving birth, a significant task in itself, I was faced with another problem that needed to be resolved. Arcadiate since then, I worked like a demon, ignoring all my animosity. After the puerperal period, we held a celebration at my parents' house. The celebration included not only my husband David, but also his parents and many relatives. Camila was there too, dressed flamboyantly. Camila was sticking close to David, as if it were her day. I didn't miss the meaningful glances they exchanged. "Everyone, I have something to announce," I said, standing up amidst the revelry. The red-faced attendees, slightly tipsy, turned their attention to me. "Well, this is a joyous occasion. I must share some important news. As of today, I am divorcing my husband, David." Like the relatives, unaware of this, were visibly shocked, except for my parents, who knew beforehand and looked disapprovingly at David.
David looked utterly clueless.
I continued with more revealing information. I'm ashamed to say, but while I was struggling with pregnancy and childbirth, David was repeatedly unfaithful. I have obtained evidence of his infidelity through a detective agency. I will show you photos of him entering a hotel with another woman and kissing her on a late-night street. The woman is none other than my sister, for Camila. As I named her, everyone's eyes turned to Camila. She was clinging to David, confirming her own wrongdoing.
Aha, Eleanor, you're bold to air your dirty laundry in front of the relatives. It's a lifelong shame to be cheated on just after giving birth, right?
I want you to realize the betrayal you've committed.
Betrayal? I was just in love with David. Love can't be criticized, right?
You seduced my husband even while I was giving birth. I'll never forget you both visiting me in the hospital together.
Exactly right. I admit it. We were together at a hotel nearby while you were giving birth. Worry about that. We were making a baby while you were giving birth to yours.
Camila, how could you?
What? I'm just admitting what you wanted to hear. You've been dumped by a successful husband earning $200,000 a year.
She boasted, drinking her beer triumphantly. The relatives were speechless with disbelief. Entered. Camila continued.
I couldn't stand seeing a plain Jane like you with a high-earning husband. Unlike you, I'm young and beautiful. David even said in the bed that he didn't feel confident in his life with you.
I don't want to hear about your affair.
Oh, my friend! Poor you, a single mother now. It's sad for the child to lose a father because of the mother's whims.
Be prepared. I'll be demanding a substantial alimony from you and David. I won't show any mercy. I'll make you both pay dearly.
This is my big break in life. I can spend money however I like. And I'm willing to pay whatever alimony you want. After all, David earns $200,000 a year. $10,000 or even $20,000 is nothing to him. I might even consider it if you beg on the ground. Right, David?
As she spoke in a sultry voice. David, beside her, turned pale. His hands were trembling. Camila looked at David skeptically, but he showed no reaction. As our eyes met, he immediately took a kneeling position.
Eva suddenly knelt down and apologized, to the surprise of Camila, who was confidently confronting me.
What's going on? David? Why are you kneeling all of a sudden?
I've no choice but to apologize.
Come on, get a grip. You told me to leave it to you if it came to a legal matter. I'm a lawyer. I'll handle any lawsuit. That's why I trusted you. David,
That's a lie. So, I said I was a lawyer ready to face any lawsuit, but it was all made up. I was just playing with you.
At that moment, I decided to show my trump card. I took out the badge from my jacket pocket. I pinned a badge to my chest, making sure it was visible. The badge, engraved with a sunflower symbolizing freedom and scales representing equality.
what is that?
And Camila understood the significance of the badge I showed. Yes, this badge is worn by lawyers. It represents justice and equality under the law.
What? But I thought you were unemployed.
I don't know where you got the idea that I was unemployed, but as you can see, I'm a lawyer currently on maternity leave. And of course, I plan to return to work once things settle down with the baby. I clarified. Then the $200,000 annual income is...
Of course. I plan to return to work once things settle down with the baby. I clarified. Then the $200,000 annual income is... That was my income before I took leave. What did David tell you? That he was the high-earning lawyer. That was just a lie to impress you. He's actually a paralegal at a law firm, basically an office worker.
David and I met at work. Despite the whispers about our income disparity, I'd always tried to avoid judging someone based on their earnings or position.
Oh, please. Eleanor, forgive me. I was lonely after you went to your parents' house and just,
Of all people, you chose my sister as your affair partner. You had your fun. Now you deserve the consequences. I'll be divorcing you and taking a substantial alimony. You know I'm a lawyer who specializes in divorce cases, right? So that's how it is, Camila. Feel free to marry David or turn him into your dependent if you like. Of course, after you've paid me the alimony. I said dismissively.
Eleanor, please have mercy. I'm your only sister, right? I don't need this liar of a man either. Please, anything but the alimony. I'm still burdened with debt from my previous relationship.
I'm done. I concluded and left the room. Afterward, I wasn't interested in how the relatives would deal with my husband and sister. That sometime later, I finalized my divorce with David. He tried to resist, but after I threatened to increase the alimony, he signed the divorce papers in tears. When it actually came to a lawsuit, David knew too well how skilled I am as a lawyer. Burdened with a hefty alimony, David was struggling, and of course, he was fired from the law firm. Cheating on your wife during childbirth is a surefire way to get fired from any law firm. I hope he reflects a bit and, moving forward, chooses to live a more upright life. As for Camila, she was kicked out of the house and is now struggling. She and David had already broken up. There have been numerous calls from Camila on my smartphone, so I have a rough idea of her situation. Camila claims she was deceived and that she's the victim. Feeling sorry for her, I referred her to a law firm. If her claim is valid, a competent lawyer will surely help her. However, I didn't think my sister could afford the lawyer's fees. I have returned to work, handling my job as efficiently as before. When I get home, I take care of my beloved daughter. Thanks to my parents' help, my life is going smoothly. I'm discussing with my parents about taking my daughter to a fancy restaurant for her first major meal. The alimony for my husband and sister. I should be able to splurge quite a bit. I'm savoring every moment of my daughter's growth